So Ricky's singing, I thank you for being so real. And this time for me has been a true gift. This time has been a gift because God has been touching me. And so the way that I know that I am in connection with God is because I choose to. Because I choose to know that if everything around me is going haywire, there is one place that I am sure that I can go that will be there for me, that is my support, that is my infinite supply. And not only that it touches me because it loves me from the inside out. And each time I go to it, it brings me peace. And that peace washes away all of the drama, any of the fear, any of the confusion, any kind of misplaced compass where I don't know what direction that I may be going in, where I may be headed, where my loved ones are headed, or any of those things that we become accustomed to. Any of that is optional in terms of where and when and how any of that shows up. But one thing that is constant, one thing that is changeless is God. And so when God touches me, I am being cleansed from the inside out. And I invite you to keep going to God. And that's why I am so grateful that we've been having our daily meditations to keep us in communion. And I'm going to tell you about what that is, that it makes such a difference as I continue. Now, she says, thank you for letting me see what a beautiful world this is. And you know, we've seen some kindness. We've seen some patience in ourselves and each other. We've seen some love. We've seen some enthusiasm. We've seen some positive attitudes. You know, we've had children who continue to be fed even though they're not in church. We have people that are showing up for each other, and there's people who are giving grace periods. Even the IRS is being kinder and gentler. I mean, we have people who are taking care of the homeless, and you kind of wonder, why did it take this for us to be able to take care of each other in a greater way? But it doesn't matter why. Why is an invalid question. We get to celebrate that this is a beautiful world, regardless of what the virus is. And I'm going to talk in a moment about what the virus truly is. But for now, I want us to be able to celebrate the good that's happening in our lives. You know, opening up my time-blinded eyes. I don't know about you, but I've been on such a schedule, so that when I've been forced to stop or adjust or move, I'm discovering all the possibilities. I'm getting my laundry folded, hallelujah. I'm getting my refrigerator cleaned out. I mean, there are projects that are waiting for me that I still haven't got to, but just to have the space to be able to think about what the possibilities are. And just those physical possibilities are just one aspect of this whole thing. There's so much more. And I want you to know that there is lots of proof that this is a beautiful world. And so we just give thanks for God changing us, because you know, some folks still can't see what's going on. And maybe they need the proof of what a wonderful world this is. And they are seeing proof of what a wonderful world this is if they are having right seeing. And I'm not trying to make anybody right or wrong, but what I am saying is when you look for God, you cannot help but find it. And so my walk is to continue to look for God, and I invite you to do so too. I was looking at this song and I was thinking about the possibilities that came even before I was born. You know, Reverend Joseph Lowry was an aide of Martin Luther King, and they together with a lot of other people were seeing some possibilities. I mean, he just made his transition at 98 years old, but he was here 35 years before I was and helping to create possibilities for me that might not have ever been happening if those people weren't doing the work. So it is our turn now to make the pathway for the generations that are younger now and the generations that can come based on our choices if we are continuing to listen to God and follow its guidance. And so I want us to really be able to tune into that, because there's something about God's guidance that will always give us the answer to whatever it is we need to know. You know, for you're changing me, taking me from fear to peace, bringing me into a deeper connection with you, and I'm knowing that more people are coming to meditation than they did when we were in the physical building having meditation. And that's a beautiful thing, because the multiplying of the consciousness has to happen. It doesn't matter where it happens, it just matters that it happens. And so as we open our time-blinded eyes, we're able to listen to the Akashic records, which are telling us something about being centered in truth, something about the integrity of our lives, something about our ability to pursue transformation, something about a capacity to see the true nature of reality, and that we may have a willingness to understand and to apply this truth and to be partners and participants of the new reality. Because children, there is a new reality coming. And I want you to know that our willingness to understand is going to make us be equipped for what that new reality is, and only we can co-create it. So here we are in this time of looking at what is the true church. I mean, we've been with the Divine Feminine all month. We started out with Bishop Blunder talking about co-creating with God. And no matter how many people you may invite to your party, if things are a kilter, then they may not show up. And there's also this idea of there may be some inconvenience, but even in the inconvenience is an opportunity for us not only to be humble, but for us to be lifted into a greater awareness of what it means to be mindful. And we truly are being called to be mindful at this time. This is an opportunity. I'm not calling it a crisis because I know God. And what I know about God is that there is always some seeds being planted for something greater to emerge. And that's even happening now, children. So the true church is not brick and mortar. The true church is connected. It's communion with God, and it is connection with each other. And I mean human beings, I mean animals, I mean plants, I mean trees, I mean fish, I mean birds, I mean all of it. And because we are now able to communicate around the world, there is no place where we are not being connected to each other. And not just through Facebook, not just through telephone, not through any of these methods, but energetically we are connected. Make no mistake about it. There are people who are poor and people who are rich and famous who are susceptible to this thing that is going around. Every single country on the planet, this is happening to. That's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. It's creating an opportunity for us to see what's going on around the world. Now remember, this started with a fish. Now, the fish at some point was in water. 51. And the waters we've had dominion over. And you know what? What we've done over the last century is act like we're separate from everyone in every life form. And because of that, we have been forced to be in this thing. It's no longer the fish that are dealing with the dis-ease. It's all of us. It's the birds. It's all people. So whatever you may call being socially distant, we're not socially distant, and we never can be. Because energetically, we may be hibernating behind closed doors, but in this big time out that we're having, we get to see how we got here, and more importantly, how we get from here to where we need to be. And God is continuing to guide us and let us know what that path is. So I want you to know there was this story that one of my colleagues was sharing. It was called An Appeal to Reason. It was written by Edward C. Jones, and it was written in the Daily Trojan paper, which is my alma mater. But it was written on October 3rd, 1939, just before World War II. And he was telling the story. He said, once while on the desert road to Baghdad, a caravan met pestilence in the form of a blood-stained devil. So you know this is a fable because they're talking about devil. So it is this pestilence that's heading to Baghdad. And the traveler said, why? The caravan chief, he was an Arab. And he said, why do you hasten so to Baghdad? And the pestilence said, I go to take 5,000 lives. Now, upon the way back from the city, the caravan met pestilence again. And he said, you deceived me. Instead of 5,000, said the chief, you took 50,000. And the pestilence said, nay, I took 5,000 and not one more. It was fear who killed the rest. So I want us to know that we're not here for fear. We're here for love. And so it's not just something that we think that we can shake off. It's something that we have to tune into. To be able to tune into love is to be able to release the fear and act like our lives depend on it, because they do. And so I want us to really be able to understand that in this time of opportunity, that fear is not our friend. But because we have this collective consciousness, we are sharing this vibratory force. And so in this time of fear, there's also energetically a lifting of the veil. And so there's a shattering of all of the falsehoods, right? All of these lies we've been pretending to live out. And so what's happening now is there's a new opening to reality. And what that opening is inviting us into is a new way of seeing and a new way of being. And so as that is happening, I think it's really important for us to look at some things. We're going to have to shed the ego. We're going to have to release our attachments. We've already started doing that part. Because each of us is responsible for our own mind, Bathsheba. Each of us is responsible for our own vibration. Each of us is attuned to our own health, particularly now. And each one needs to attune to their bodies, care for their bodies at a heightened state, care for their breath by giving themselves time each day to breathe deeply. Because it is important for us to become connected. And it's also important for us to become connected to Mother Earth. We are part of this vibration. We are guests on the planet Earth. So rather than being parasites, we want to be very gracious guests as we live here. We are here by invitation. And so we want to be sure that we can move past this disconnect that has created this opportunity to come back and pay attention to nature and be in nature, and that this is the key to the well-being of this entire planet. So there is all of this that's happening. And now many of us have been living unsustainably for a long time. We've been running on fumes. I'm going to speak for myself. I've been running on fumes, burning the candle at both ends, trying to do this and toxifying my mind and toxifying my body at the same time, being disconnected. And so all of this happening in mass has caused an opportunity for us to rewrite this story and to become more holistic and more sustainable. And so when we do this, we are participating as true co-creators. We already know how to create something that we don't want, but here we are at the crossroads of creating something that we do want. Not only do we want, but that we need, and that is requiring us to do so and not giving us any other options. Hello? So it's important for us as individuals to be connected to a higher thought, a higher force. Because the connection to source, to light, to love, to God, to consciousness is important. Right? So right now, Deepak Chopra and Oprah are doing a meditation, around hope. But sometimes I say hope stands at the door and faith walks in. So I want us to really go and act like we believe what we say we believe. Right? And so we're wanting to connect through mantras, through breathing, through prayer. And there's a lot of prayer requests today, and we're welcoming even more. Because if you stop making yourself open and available to your good, then your good will just be standing there waiting for you. So what we want to do is do our holy work. We want to read holy work. We want to be in the Word of God. And we want to be able to be aware of the thoughts that we're having. We want to be aware of the words that we're saying. We want to be aware of the information that we are ingesting from the media. And we want to be aware of whether or not we want to welcome in these external sources. And so just to say mantras like, I am happy, healthy, whole, and safe. Say that with me. I am happy, healthy, whole, and safe. Sets an intention into the universe and cannot return to you void. So I want us to really get tuned into our emotional health as well, to really be able to know beyond whatever we may have done in the past about trying for people not to see that we feel in some kind of way. We've got to own our emotions. We've got to be with those feelings in a real way, because that is how we heal. And if one person is not healed, then we are all subjective and susceptible to this disharmony and this dis-ease. So I want us to be able to do our self-work, keeping our emotions elevated and clear, not by a bypass, but because we intentionally are doing the work to make this so. So in our meditation work, we can do this breath work so that we can have a real rebirth and not get stuck in our bodily systems and not really be stuck in the drama. Some of us may be dealing with our families more than we've been used to, and now there may be some karma and some dharma that's up. So your life purpose and that energy that you put out continues to go around. What goes around comes around. And so then this is only because we have something to learn from each other and we have something to teach each other. So this is creating the transformation that's necessary. Individual transformation creates global transformation. And so we're talking about families who are now becoming connected, families who are healing their separation, families that are using the family unit to learn and grow and transform. And there has to be some time where you do take your space. Even if there's no additional space or physical space, that you take some time to get the mental space that you need. And that's when we're communing with God. And that's a beautiful way for us to have some place to go when we feel like we're stuck. Because we want to keep the awareness of our spiritual nature as our highest priority. Because when we are in love's embrace, all of God's blessing flow to us. And so as I close, I just want to remind you of what Ernest Holmes tells us in his Holmes Reader on Change, which was in the Science of Mind magazine in the November 2019 issue. And he says, I believe all things are possible, no matter what any experience may be. I believe good will come out of it. I believe all poverty will be turned into riches. Remember, because abundance and prosperity are part of this thing called God and life. And he says, I believe that all fear will be converted to faith. He says, I believe good will triumph over every evil, and love will finally heal all hate. So today, as we look at the season for nonviolence, and this is day 58 of the season for nonviolence, it's a quote from Martin Luther King, and he says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Now, he said that many, many years ago, and it's still true. Clearly, dis-ease is not justice. And so our well-being is also tied to justice. And what we want to do is be just to ourselves and just to each other. Ernest Holmes goes on to say, I believe that no matter what, good will come out of it. So belief is a mental state. And we can change the mental state by denying the outward form, but not just denying it, because our philosophy does not deny the reality of the external, but it affirms the reality of the invisible as the creator of the external. So I want us to be able to be attuned to that invisible so that we can create something that's visible that is for our highest and best good. This is what we are here to do. We're here to learn how to be together, how to be with God, how to be ourselves, how to be true to ourselves, how to be true to our truth. And in this time of the divine feminine, we get to receive the bountiful blessings of God, to say yes to whatever God has for us, and to be able to be a co-creator and produce something magnificent. As we move forward in our time in this planet, on this earth, that we have a responsibility. And I invite you to respond from the inside out, from the invisible, and then create a visible that is worth living, that brings us joy, unleashes our freedom, and absolutely anchors us in love. Namaste.